Afternoon, everybody. You all sound a bit low today. Afternoon, everybody. You all are youth, not to be bad, but we are not the adults service here. So we need to show more life, okay? Let's try one more time. Good afternoon, Frontline Youth. Okay, a bit better. Let's hope that energy comes up. Anyway, it's good to see so many faces. First, we want to welcome the P6s that are here with us, or at least the 2K9s. Can we put our hands together to welcome them? In case you don't know, you have to get used to it. At Frontline, we don't call you by your age. We don't call you like P6, Sec 1 or Sec 2 because every year you change. Every year we grow. So, as of now, when you're in Frontline, you'll be known as the 2K9s. Okay? That's the year that you're born. Simple. So, every year you're just the 2K9s. The 2K8s, the 2K7, 2K6, 2K5. Yeah, so that's a brief introduction. And at the same time, we also want to welcome the slightly older people among our midst. Actually, they are not very old compared to me. Let's welcome the parents among our midst. Thank you. I myself am a parent also. But these parents are older than me. Good to have all of you with us. It's so good to see all your faces. Last week, I was doing the call to worship, but I cannot see you face because I cannot see you live because I wasn't here. But it's so good to see all of us coming together to worship God. Isn't it amazing that we can gather and worship our God? Yeah, it doesn't feel like a youth service. I'm going to read a passage and then I'll pray and I'll pass the time over to Shane online, which is up there. Okay, in John chapter 4, this is the moment where... Actually, I'm allowed to take off my mask. This is the moment where Jesus was talking to a woman who was looking for a place to worship. And she went to many mountains. And here it says, in chapter 4, verse 23, it says, "Woman," Jesus replied, "believe me, a time is coming when you will worship the Father, neither on this mountain nor in Jerusalem. You Samaritans worship what you do not know. We worship what we know, for salvation is from the Jew. Yet a time is coming and has now come when the true worshippers will worship the Father in spirit and in truth. For they are the kind of worshippers that God seeks. God is spirit, and his worshippers must worship him in spirit and in truth." Frontline, so many weeks, so many months, we've been gathering online to worship. And of course, I know this passage is not talking about a place to worship, but it's more talking about the heart of worship that our God seeks. So can I invite all of us to stand? Even as we worship our God, even as we sing praises to him, let's remember that God desires a worshipper who worship him in spirit and in truth. Let's worship him with all that we are because he's the one that deserves it. Let's pray, and I'll pass the time over to Shane. God, we thank you for gathering all of us in this place. We thank you from the young to the old in this place because we see generations of people coming to worship you, coming to give you praise. And that is an amazing image, oh God. God, I pray that even as we come before you now in worship, I ask for our hearts to be ready, for our hearts ready to exalt you, for hearts ready to lift you up in this place, and for hearts that will worship you in spirit and in truth. So I pray for passion to arise. I pray for a heart of worship to arise in this place, and that your name and your name only be glorified. In Jesus' name we pray, and all God's people say, Amen.
I want us to begin this time of worship through music just by recognizing just who God is, the fact that all we have belongs to him, and let's just proclaim his name together as one voice.
And the power open, death is broken, and the glory forever is yours. Nothing can overcome the power of your name. King above kings, all the universe will sing. Everlasting God, you are wonderful. You are wonderful. And the shout of the earth will be your praise. God forever and light unto all will be your wonderful name. For the glory, Lord, is yours. God forever, all the glory, Lord, is yours. Yours is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever is yours. Heaven and earth bow down in the wonder of your name. Heaven is open, death is broken, and the glory forever is yours. Nothing can overcome the power of your name. King above king, all the universe will sing. Everlasting God, you are wonderful. You are wonderful. And the shout of the earth will be your praise. God forever and the light unto all will be your wonderful name. For the glory, Lord, is yours. God forever, all the glory, Lord, is yours. King above kings, all the universe will sing. Everlasting God, you are wonderful. You are wonderful. King above kings, all the universe will sing. Everlasting God, you are wonderful. You are wonderful. And the shout of the earth will be your praise. God forever and the light unto all will be your wonderful name. For the glory, Lord, is yours. God forever, all the glory, Lord, is yours. And the shout of the earth will be your praise. God forever and the light unto all will be your wonderful name. For the glory, Lord, is yours. God forever, all the glory, Lord, is yours. All the glory is yours.
And all the glory forever, it belongs to Him. Thanks, Lord.
Thanks to the Lord, our God and King. His love endures forever. For He is good, He is above all things. His love endures forever. Sing praise. endures forever. And by the grace of God, we will carry on. His love endures forever. Sing praise, sing praise, sing praise, sing praise. Forever God is faithful, forever God is strong, forever God is with us, forever, forever, forever God is faithful, forever God is strong, forever God is with us, forever.
Come on, let's have a shout of praise to Him.
His love endures forever. 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 Sing praise, and sing praise, sing praise, sing praise. Forever God is faithful, forever God is strong, forever God is with us, forever. Forever you are faithful. Forever you are faithful. Forever you are strong. Forever you are with us. Forever. Forever.
Sing of who God is and what He's done for us. My Savior.
forever. I will never be the same as you came near. And from the everlasting to the world we live, God is only Son. You live and you died, you rose again on high. You opened the way for the world to live again. Hallelujah. For all you've done. You live and you died, you rose again on high. You opened the way for the world to live again. Hallelujah. For all you've done.
Lift up a shout of praise for Him, the things He's done in our lives, for who He is.
You came near from the everlasting to the world we love. Father's only Son. You came near from the everlasting to the world we love. Father's only Son. You lived, you died, you rose again on high. You opened the way for the world to live again. Hallelujah. For all you've done. You lived, you died, you rose again on high. You opened the way for the world to live again. Hallelujah. For all you've done. Hallelujah. For all you've done. Hallelujah. For all you've done.
Reading from Romans chapter 12, verses 1 to 2. Therefore, I urge you, brothers and sisters, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. This is your true and proper worship. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, His good, pleasing, and perfect will. And even in the songs we've sung so far, as we recognize who God is, as we recognize what He's done for us, what He's done in our lives, what do we then do next? What's our response? And as we sing this next song, I want to challenge us to remember that God has called us, indeed, not to conform to the standards of the world that have been placed on us, but to take up His cross and to follow His ways.
Wondrous cross on which the mind that I may truly live. And oh, the wonderful cross, oh, the wonderful cross, all who gather here by grace draw near and bless your name.
As we sing this last song, let's just remember what a privilege it is that we can even come before God to worship Him. And what a privilege it even is to be able to gather with one another. And yeah, let this last song be the prayer of our hearts today, that we would sing of His love, His grace, His mercy, and His goodness all the days of our life.
Over the mountains and the sea, your river runs with love for me. And I will open up my heart and let the healer set me free. I'm happy to be in the truth, and I will daily lift my hands, for I will always sing of when your love came down. Mountains and the sea, your river runs with love for me. And I will open up my heart and let the healer set me free. I'm happy to be in the truth, and I will daily lift my hands, for I will always sing of when your love came down. I could sing of your love forever. Sing of your love forever. And I could sing of your love forever. I could sing of your love forever. Over the mountains and the sea, your river runs with love for me. And I will open up my heart and let you set me free. I'm happy to be in the truth, and I will daily lift my hands, for I will always sing of when your love came down. I could sing of your love forever. 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 You know I feel like dancing. Oh, it's foolishness, I know. When the world has seen the light, they will dance with joy like we're dancing now. Oh, I feel like dancing. It's foolishness, I know. When the world has seen the light, they will dance with joy like we're dancing now. Forever, I could sing of your love forever. I could sing of your love forever. I could sing
Wow, it's so amazing to be worshiping when I can hear voices around me singing with me and not just listening to my own voice. The joy that comes in this worship, the joy that comes, I was just reminded as I was standing there, as I was saying, that in John 8, chapter 36, it says, whom the Son sets free, is free indeed. God, we thank you because we can stand before you, worshiping you with this freedom that you have given us. Even as we approach Advent, even as we approach Christmas, even as we approach the season of giving, we remember that you are the greatest gift of all time. You came and you are called Emmanuel, God with us. And we acknowledge that your presence is here with us today, be it physically here or even for some who are watching with us online. We acknowledge that your presence is here. And we thank you because we can respond to you in worship, because of the freedom that you have given us, because of the works that you have done on the cross for our sins. And God, we praise you because you didn't remain dead. You rose again to life. You defeated death. You defeated sin. And that's why we can be free. So I pray for all of us in this place today that God will continue to live not from a position of failure, not from a position that we feel that we failed you, but we can come from a position that we know that victory has already been won on the cross 2,000 years ago. I praise you. I thank you for your presence, your tangible presence among our midst in this place. We acknowledge and we ask that your name will continue to be lifted up throughout the rest of the service. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. Please be seated. You know, and I was just standing in front, and it's so amazing. It's not that your voices are the best. In fact, my voice should be one of the worst among us. But it's so amazing to sing praises to God when there's voices around me praising God. And I think that is what it means by how we can come together, how we can not give up meeting, and how we can continue to spur one another towards love and good deeds. And that's just one small example. Hi everyone. For those who don't know me, I must realize that not everybody knows me here. I'm Jonathan. I'm the youth worker of Frontline Youth. So for the P6ers who have not known me yet, you will get to know me. For the parents, you have seen my text, you have seen my name here and there. Now you can put a name, a face to a name. So welcome again to Frontline. We want to continue on this time of worship through our tithes and offerings. And now, can I invite the ushers? Oh, okay. A change of plan. We'll continue to stick to online giving. So if you are comfortable with the QR code, you can scan. And let's continue to worship our God through our tithes and offerings. So I'll leave the screen up there for a moment. In case you didn't realize, those people that are working very hard, putting up the barrier, is because we never expect the numbers today. We never expect so many of you turn up. So in fact, initially we thought we could be one zone. But thank God, for those in front, turn around and see the number of people that we have today is amazing. How we can come together to worship God. So now, they have to work doubly hard to create 2 zones among our midst now. So can we put our hands together and thank them? Okay, we'll continue to move on. I think some of you came a bit late. We also want to acknowledge that you are here with us. For the P6ers, thank you for being here. It's good to have you. You, again, decrease our age by a bit. Of course, for today, the parents are here with us. Sorry to say you increase our age, not by a lot, just by a bit, because there are a few of us that are quite old around our midst. So welcome to Frontline Youth. Welcome to our youth service. And also for those who are watching online, we also want to welcome you watching online with us. So today, I think all of you all know what you are here for. Today, we are very privileged to invite Lang Tian, Pastor Lang, who is here with us to share with us on the title of God in Games. A brief introduction of him. I knew him, I met him some 6 months ago, where Pastor Kevin introduced us. And at first when I met him, I thought, wow, such an interesting guy with such an interesting background, with the things that he's going to talk about. And I met up with him and we discussed. In fact, this session was planned to be in May end of May. But because of COVID, because of the restrictions, we have to postpone. But thank God, it's still a good timing because today he get to speak to both the parents and the youth. Lang is classmates with Pastor Kevin. They graduated from SBC with MDiv in 2017. And from 2012 to 2019, he served as a pastoral and a teaching team in a BB church, I think specialized in youth and young adults. So he's the right person. He comes from a very interesting, he himself is a gamer. He named all the games to me, I totally don't know what he was talking about because I only play basketball, all the NBA games I play. But he's a gamer who grew up playing a lot of games. I think he'll have some of the introduction. And in fact, he founded an organization or a company that is called God, a ministry that is called God and Games, with the idea of wanting to bridge God and games. So it's a very interesting topic. Without further ado, let me invite him up. I'll pray and I'll pass the time over to him. God, we thank you for Pastor Lang. We thank you for how you have shaped him and his experience that he comes with. And I pray that even as he comes here today to share a very interesting topic with us today, that Lord, Holy Spirit, you continue to empower him. You continue to use him to speak to us about such a contemporary issue in our lives. And I pray that for us as youth, as parents, as adults listening to this, that God will come with a soft hearts, ready for your word to come into our hearts and to bear fruits, and just really growing us in maturity. We also thank you for the offerings. We pray that even as the money goes forth, that you continue to use it for the expansion of your kingdom to really bless the nations and to bring the good news to them all. So we praise you, we thank you, we commit this time in your hands. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Over to you.
All right, testing. All right, thank you so much for that introduction, John. And it's so good to see you. Oh my goodness, this is the first time. It's the first time in such a long time I'm back worshiping with, not just people, but all people from all different ages. It's such a blessing for me, and I think this is the first time I'm back speaking in person after so long. And oh my goodness, I'm Zoom fatigued. Yeah, for sure. So let me just test this. Okay, is it on? It works, right? Does it? Okay, cool. All right, so I will tell you guys a little bit more about myself in just a little bit. But first, since this is a talk about games, I can take off my mask, right? I gotta stay near it. Because of the, right. Okay, so yeah, people tell me I like to walk around a lot when I preach, but yeah, is it too much walking around, right? Yeah, I don't know, it keeps me, yeah. So, okay, I'll stand here. And yeah, so what was I gonna say? Yeah, since it's about games, let's play a game first, all right? So yeah, I realized that there's lots of, there's a nice age range here from young to not so young. And so let's see where we get here. Okay, it's game time. And the winner of this game gets $10,000. Yeah, I wish. I don't have the budget. So, okay, so question number 1. What age is the average gamer? What age is the average gamer? So just, I guess, you can turn to the person next to you. Are you allowed to do that, right? Yeah, maybe just turn to the person next to you, can tell them, what do you think? Is it 12? Is it 16? Is it 26? Is it 34? Okay, so, all right. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, how many of you say 12? Raise your hands. How many of you say 16? Raise your hands. Oh, a little bit more. How many of you say 26? Raise your hands. Okay, and how many of you say 34? Raise your hand. Okay, right? Majority is 16, but the answer is 34. Right? The average gamer, the average gamer worldwide right now, the average age is a 34-year-old male with a house and kids, right? So gaming is not just for kids anymore. All the people my age grew up, and 34 seems to be the average age of the age of the average gamer. All right, this is question number 2. Women or girls make up how many % of gamers? All right, so you can turn to the person next to you really quickly, and Okay. All right, how many people say 25%? Okay, how many people say 35%? How many people say 45%? No, a little bit more. How many say 55%? Okay, the answer is 45%. Yay, most of you got that right. Growing up, okay, so I'll kind of reveal my age a little bit later, but growing up, gaming was always seen as a guy's thing, right? And it's a thing, it's not just guys, but geeks. But now, 45% of gamers are female. That's very interesting. All right, so question number 3, how many of these acronyms do you know? Okay, so I'm sure the younger people will, should be a little bit better at this. And if you have someone who's a little bit older than you, near you, you can maybe start sharing with that person. One, two, three, 4, 5, 6. Okay, how many people know 1? Okay, still some discussion. How many people know 2? Okay, a little bit more. How many people know 3? How many got 4? And how many got 5? How many got 6? How many got 7? All correct. Oh, really? Okay. So, right, let me just reveal. Okay, so GGWP, what is it? Good game, well played, right? GLHF? Good luck, have fun. LFG, aha. If you play MMOs, you'll know this. Looking for group, very good. MOBA. Multiplayer Online Battle Arena. RNG. Random Number Generator. FPS. First person shooter or frames per second, depending on, yeah, right? So that's, right? So these are all the acronyms. And the point I'm trying to make here is that there seems to be this language that, I guess younger people or gamers generally know how to speak, right? We say this kind of language, these terms have bled into our normal lives. Like, walao, GG la, Workers' Party GG also, right? Just kidding. Right? So we all know this. This is from gaming language, right? So, so we all know these things, and it's a cultural thing. That's what I'm trying to say. So, okay, next question. Okay, last question, right? Okay, good. What do all these things have in common? Harry Potter, the Bible, rock music, and gaming. All right, give you guys like a minute to think about it. Okay, so this is a little bit hard to kind of discuss, right? And so I'll kind of give you the answer, and I hope this works again. Okay, the answer is they were all considered taboo by the church in one period of time. What? Really? Okay, so we all know, right? So when Harry Potter first came out, I don't know if it's your generation or my generation, right? There were people saying, it's sorcery. Don't let your kids go to watch it. Don't let your kids read. Don't even let your kids read the books, right? And then even further on, right? Okay, some of the older people here, rock music. Right, do you remember that era when kind of like rock was kind of coming up in the 60s and the 70s? There were all these churches that said, or there were some people, some Christians that said, oh, this music is from the devil, right? There's like, drums are for the devil or something, right? And then at the same time, gaming, and this is from my experience, and I'm sure it might be some might be the experience of you guys. Well, there is a little bit of a taboo surrounding gaming as well, right? It's violent, there's sexual content, it's addictive. And what about the top right, the Bible? Did you know that 400-ish years ago, no, it's almost 500 already, I think, that when the printing press was first invented, the Catholic Church back then banned the private ownership of Bibles. They were afraid that the common person, like you and me, who is not a priest, would accidentally misinterpret the Bible by reading it on our own. And so the church generally has this track record of when something new comes up, when something unfamiliar comes up, we kind of get a little bit skittish. We kind of get a little bit protective. And we kind of want to protect our young people or the masses or whatever from wanting to access it. But, the reality is, I know so many friends, their parents banned them from watching Harry Potter, the movie. They would buy the book or they would download the book and then they would read it on their phones or they would read the book in the toilet, right? And then, all the songs that we sang just now were, involve guitars and drums and all that, and it's been redeemed for God, right? And so and of course, can you imagine a Christian walk, a Christian life without your own personal Bible, right? But these things were all considered taboo before, and I would like to say gaming, well, hopefully we can do something about it and we can redeem it the same way that we redeem other things. Okay, so... So just a little bit more about myself. Right? I come from two worlds. I'm half Filipino, half Singaporean. My dad is Singaporean. I did my NS, but my mom is Filipino, and so I grew up a little bit there. And why am I saying this? I'm saying this because I've had to move countries lots of times. When I was primary 2, I moved to the Philippines. Primary 3, I came back. Sec 2, I went back to the Philippines, and then after 1 year of college, I came back to Singapore. And what was consistent throughout all this moving around and all this displacement was that I always managed to find community with gamers. So no matter which country I go to, right, like Philippines or going back, I mean, it's the same game lah. StarCraft is StarCraft, Command and Conquer was Command and Conquer. It's the same game. Street Fighter was Street Fighter that I kind of played in Singapore and in the Philippines. And we could speak a similar language. Like you saw just now, all the acronyms, all the terminology. So when I would go to a new country or go to a new environment, I look out for the gamers, and then, hey, immediately I'm able to connect. That's how I found friends when I was younger. And then I also have so when I kind of, in my late 20s, mid-20s, I'm kind of betraying how old I am, right? So that was me very, very long time ago, about 11 years ago, much slimmer, I'm sure, as you can see. So I founded this company called round1.sg, and we basically did fighting game tournaments. And we also started streaming our tournaments. So this was even before Twitch. So did you know that Twitch used to be called Justin TV? Right? So before that, it was Justin TV, and we would use Justin TV. We would stream it, and how we would stream it from the arcade was we had some guy with a camcorder, streaming it, and then he would connect to the laptop. And then we would upload it to YouTube back then. And this was in 2009. And so, it's not direct feed, right? It's like this shaky cam, going on left and right. But that's what we did. And I personally, I love Street Fighter. I started Street Fighter when I was 7 years old, and that was in 1989. The Soviet Union was still around. And so, but for me, it was a magical thing because you go to the arcade, you put in 50 cents, right, or whatever, right? How many pesos, I forgot. It was in the Philippines. I played my first game. I was like, what? I don't know anything. I mashed all the buttons. I picked Ken, and I won. And after I won, the guy next to me had to leave the cabinet. And I was like, oh, this is magical. Because I play a video game, I just kick the guy out, and I get to stay. That's so cool. And that's, I've been a Street Fighter player ever since. So I used to be competitive as well. Would travel, and I would go to Korea, Japan to compete in tournaments. And this was a long, long time ago. And I like to think that, we are part of this gaming community that really, eventually one of my friends won the World Championships. Don't know if you know, he's sponsored by Razer. Don't know if you know Cien. And so, he's, we kind of we were in the scene together back then. And I also, and a little bit more recently, like what Jonathan said, I used to be kind of like a youth, young adult ministry worker. I used to preach in a Bible Presbyterian church. And these two worlds, like I kind of mentioned earlier, seemed a bit separate. Even when I was doing the fighting game tournaments back then, I would go and tell my pastor, like, hey, because I was shoutcasting, right, even back then. And I was like, hey, I'm shoutcasting, I'm leading this community, I'm meeting lots of people from all walks of life. What can I do? How can I make this, how can I, glorify God when I'm playing games and leading this community? And the reality was nobody really had any advice, or nobody really had an answer for me. And so I kind of felt alone, I kind of felt lost. And eventually, due to kind of like family health issues, I had to stop this ministry. Eventually, when I started working in church, I also realized that it was a little bit of a taboo. So, confession, right? Like, okay, a lot, my group of friends from Singapore Bible College, we were all gamers, even then, right? All studying the Bible, but also gaming. But I asked them, right, do you tell your pastor that you game? They say, actually, no. And so there was this taboo, and I remember a young person going up to someone who was older in my church, and he told this older person, like, I'm feeling really depressed these days, but because I'm in this gaming community with Lang, we were playing this game called Rainbow Six Siege, it's a shooter, and he said, I feel connected to community, and then that. I'm so happy, right, that I'm connected in spite of my depression. And then that older person proceeded to give my friend, who was a young adult, a 30-minute lecture on why gaming is bad. And after that, my friend just felt so deflated, and I think he stopped coming to church after that. So so my heart is that I would somehow find a way to bridge these two worlds, and that's kind of what I'm doing here today. And so I founded this ministry called GG, God and Games, and I'll talk a little bit more about this ministry a little bit later. So anyways, now you know a little bit more about myself. So I kind of gave away my age. I'm 38, and I have a 2-year-old daughter who's going to be 3 soon. So I'm talking to you guys, hopefully as a young parent, and also hopefully as not someone who's not too old yet. Okay, so yeah, it's a community, an experiment, and a resource. I'll talk a little bit more about GG a little bit later. All right, so today, I want to talk to us, and I want to talk to you guys a little bit about the state of the video game industry. And this is more to kind of educate, hopefully, those who are a little bit older among us, and for some of you who are a bit younger, to kind of see kind of the macro trends. Because I think for you guys, you just grew up and gaming was a thing. But hopefully, I'll be able to share a little bit more context. And of course, what I think my main mission here, right, is to kind of bridge the generations and to kind of hopefully give the older people and the younger people here a little bit of a better understanding of what the dangers of gaming really are and what the benefits of gaming can be. And then, of course, I would love to talk about how to redeem video games for God. Can we do that? Of course, the answer is, I believe, yes, right? If not, I wouldn't start this ministry. But we'll talk a little bit more about that, and we'll talk about a little bit more about practical ways in which maybe we can use gaming in our lives. All right, sorry, I forgot to get my water. All right, so state of play, let's talk about video games today. Did you know that video games, the video game industry is bigger than the music and the film industry combined? Right, so this, hit my shoe. So this was in 2016. And in 2016, the video game industry eclipsed the music and the movie industry for the first time. So it's bigger than, think about it, right? The Marvel Cinematic Universe, the DC Cinematic Universe, Warner Brothers, Star Wars, Taylor Swift, Ed Sheeran, South Korean movies, Hong Kong cinema, Squid Game, all of that is smaller than gaming right now. And so gaming is a real industry. It's not just an industry, it is the fastest, and it's growing much faster than the music and the movie industry as well. Right? And this is, if some of you know, this was the Fortnite World Championships, like about 3 years ago, I think. And look at that stadium. So many people. Never in my wildest dreams growing up would I have imagined that we could fill a stadium full of people, gamers, watching other gamers play. I never imagined this would happen, but it has happened. And Do you guys remember how much the first prize guy won? A couple of million, right? Three, is it? Yeah, that's crazy, right? $3 million, right? So I also, like, growing up in my wildest dreams, I never imagined you could earn that much money playing video games and getting good at video games. I like to tell people, I was born 15 years too early. Wasted, never mind. So, but hey, I'm here today, so, right? And then the future is, as we know now, right? You saw the graph previously, and you see that mobile, back then, has kind of like a little bit of the share, but the future is mobile for sure, right? I'm sure you guys know. Mobile gaming is very, very, very big right now. So you've got Wild Rift, Mobile Legends, Bang Bang, PUBG, COD, right? So these are like kind of the big four for mobile gaming right now. And of course, there are others. All right, so let's get into the meat of this, right? Let's talk about maybe why possibly there's a little bit of a generation gap when it comes to gaming. Okay, so what are the main concerns, the adults here? Am I right? It's addiction and time spent, and this seems to be the questions that were posed to me in advance, right? And of course, there's violence in video games. It's always been an issue, and sometimes the sexual content, right? Some of the, like, why does a female knight's armor need to kind of look like that? It doesn't really protect them very much, but still, right? So these are some of the concerns that the adults have about gaming, and I would like to address them. So, right, let's look at the science. And what does the science say? And what do psychologists say about violence, for example? So it's one of the most researched topics in psychology today. But yet there's no consensus as to whether or not playing violent video games lead to extreme violent behavior. In other words, if, let's say, you see there was a person who's a gamer and also committed violent acts, that person might have been predispositioned already to be violent without the video games in the first place, right? So there's no link of causality right now. There is maybe a small increase. All of the meta-analysis point to the conclusion that in the vast majority of settings, violent video games do increase aggressive behavior, but these effects are almost always very, very small. So it doesn't lead to the kind of like mass shootings or, beating other people up or knifing people, but it maybe does make people a little bit more aggressive. But that is the gist of it. Right. So the paper and many others stress that video game exposure is one of the many risk factors of aggressive behavior and violence. Various scholars point to such factors as racism, ethnic hatred, psychiatric disorders, adverse social environments, easy access to guns and other lethal weapons, which may be the most critical factor of all. So these other factors are probably more indicative of whether or not somebody is going to commit a violent act rather than just blaming it on video games. Right, so so I think the reason why a lot of the people in the older generation have a really bad impression about video games is because it's a black box to them, right? And it's understandable because I'm an early millennial, and I can still remember, I'm the kind of generation, we are the generation that can still remember the dial-up modem, ding, 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 right? But we can still remember life before the internet. But for you guys, most of you guys, you just grew up and the internet was just there. And so a lot of these things, honestly, there has never been a shift in there's never been such a leap in technology and information propagation in the history of mankind than what has happened in the last 20 years. I truly believe that. You ask historians, nothing at this scale has ever happened before. And so it's very understandable that people in the older generation might not really understand internet culture, or even gaming. So let's just open this black box, and this is more for the older ones here, and this is, if you're younger, you can actually, I'm hoping that if you're younger, you can actually empathize a little bit more. When, maybe your parents nag you about playing video games too much, or internet, or whatever, but I'm hoping that you can empathize with them as well, because they really didn't grow up with these things, but you did. Right? So I believe one of the big reasons why youth and why people play video games, and myself included, is to seek validation, right? I'm not saying this is a good thing or a bad thing, but validation is something that we all need in life, right? We want our parents, we want our peers, we want our teachers to tell us, hey, good job, hey, you're good, hey, you're skillful, hey, you're smart, or hey, you're whatever. And these are, hey, you're loved. And these are things that we all need. And I would like to posit that playing video games offers a lot of us, gamers, a way to just get that validation there, just like that. Triple kill, monster kill, double kill, excellent, fantastic, great combo. You're number one, you level up, right? Because I can be a I can be a poor student, or I could be not selected for the basketball team, but hey, I'm number one in the Call of Duty leaderboards, right? Or I got winner, chicken dinner. So that's something that we get as gamers. And I'm just saying that this is a basic human need. And I think gaming provides that. And whether or not that's a good thing or a bad thing, we can discuss a little bit more, right? So another reason why maybe young people play video games a little bit too much is to escape from real world problems. And I think, again, this may be or may not be a bad thing, right? Because I think there's inbuilt in every one of us a desire to be part of something greater than ourselves. I think that's what God has given each and every one of you, to be connected to this big mission of saving the world. And I think sometimes when we lose sight of that, we can look for other ways in which that's fulfilled. And gaming offers us a very easy way to kind of escape our real-world problems and connect to kind of this fantasy world and this bigger mission, a mission that's bigger than us. So like I said, maybe it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it can also not be a good thing, right? It's catharsis from stress. As someone who's getting a little bit older, it's my kind of safe space for, at the end of the day, after a long day's work. Like I said, it gives us a sense of adventure, and for many of us, it's now a place where we get community. Almost every game, you can add friends, right, online and play with a group of people. It was impossible when I was growing up. You had to go to the arcade and you had to make friends. You can't just add people in your friends list. But now almost every game has a social element. And game companies know that helps you to connect with the game more, play the game more. But it taps into a very basic need that we all have, and that's a need for community. And one of the things that I believe a lot of, maybe my generation, but I don't know about yours, we play games to keep ourselves mentally sharp. It's like how maybe in the older generation, your grandparents, they play mahjong. And, my grandma plays a lot of mahjong. And my grandfather used to play a lot of cards. And he says, yeah, I need to do it to keep my mind sharp because I need to remember the cards. I need to remember the patterns, right? And I think for our generation, I think what's going to happen is when I'm going to grow up, I'm going to be playing video games as an old man, using it to keep myself mentally fit. So I think these are some of the reasons why gamers play. And I think it's important for us to even if you're younger, to understand. And I'm hoping that you're kind of reflecting as I'm sharing this. And for the older people, I hope that this is giving you a little bit of insight as to what gaming provides. So let's talk about the real benefits and the real dangers of gaming. So like I like to say, violent video games, we can talk a little bit more about that, but it's kind of weird talking about violent video games or, for example, shooters in a country in which when we're 18, we are given guns, and we're trained to shoot people. And so I think there needs to be a little bit more of a nuanced conversation around violence in video games. The sexualization of video games, however, I think that's a bit of a problem. Like, do all the characters really need to wear such skimpy outfits? We can talk a little bit more about that later. But let's talk about, to me, those are kind of like not that important. Let's talk about the real benefits and the real dangers of gaming. right? So to me, right, the real dangers of gaming is loot boxes, right? It's basically legalized gambling. But it's a practice that has gone way, way back. Remember our generation? We used to buy the Panini cards, the basketball cards, and then, right, we buy the cards, and then we feel the cards. Some friends are legendary. They say that they can actually feel which pack has the foil, right? If some of you play like Yu-Gi-Oh! Or whatever, or Pokemon. And, right, if you open it, and then, so either you get a bunch of commons, or once in a while you get a rare. And you can actually trade the rare card for money, right? So it kind of has gone way back. It's kind of like gambling, right? And if you ask me, this can fuel a lot of addictions, and there's lots of problems, especially, for example, FIFA, right? You need to open these loot boxes to get like Ronaldo or Messi or whatever. And there are all these cases, you hear all these stories about kids stealing their parents' credit cards to go and pay for these online purchases. And as someone who, I'll be honest, when Overwatch came out, right? I spent money on loot boxes, and but thankfully after a while, right? And there were all these videos, right? This guy spends what? I bought 500 loot boxes, and there are all these videos of you just watch this guy open loot box after loot box after loot box, and it was quite entertaining and cathartic. And I think, yeah, that's a little bit insidious because it kind of almost is gambling, if you ask me. And so, not just and when we talk about violence in video games, I'm less interested in the violence itself, but I'm more interested in the violence who the violence is perpetrated on, right? So there are some games in which there's some games, I won't say which, that kind of encourage you or give you points for beating people up on the street, for shooting prostitutes in the head, right? And to me, that's a little bit of a problem because it fosters a little bit of kind of like a racism or a classism, and it's if a game is violent because you're protecting your camp against evil Nazis, that's one thing. But if a game rewards you for just going around shooting people on the street and you get high score for that, I think that's a little bit of a problem. It's teaching you something a little bit more insidious, right? Pay to win mechanics. Again, this kind of ties into loot boxes, right? Genshin Impact, maybe a little bit, right? Because basically, right, it comes to a point in which you can't advance, or you can if you spend a lot of time, but if you want to save time and get to the max level or whatever, or to get that special item, you pay money lah, right? So some of us are very disciplined. I will only play 1 hour a day, I will use up my energy, and that's it, right? But they're hoping that, of course, you get a little bit itchy, and you want to play a little bit more, and then you pay money, right? And of course, there's this toxic online culture that can surround gaming as well. And I just want to say, yeah, and I've been there, done that. I like to say, right? Anyone here plays Dota? Like everybody in Southeast Asia knows all the Filipino swear words because of Dota. Correct? and they know all the Indonesian swear words and all the Thai swear words, and if you play CS, you know the Russian swear words, right? And so it is kind of like a wild, wild west, and your parents don't know who your friends are online, and I think that's maybe an issue that we need to talk a little bit more about. Right, so to me, these are the real dangers. Of course, we can talk a little bit more about them during the Q&A a little bit later. But there are real benefits. Like this lady, she's like 90-something, I think, and she still plays video games. And so, for example, like I said, it can be a good source of community, like with my friend in church. I connected with him. He was depressed. He was not coming to church, but because of our little Rainbow Six Siege community, he felt part of something else, and it was something for him to look forward to every night. Right? It improves your mental dexterity. This is proven by some research as well. Helps you with problem-solving skills. There was a recent study that shows, right, like ask gamers and non-gamers to solve a couple of problems, and gamers seem to be able to solve novel problems a little bit better because we kind of have to do that all the time in games, right? And it's also, it can be a safe place to learn. What do I mean by that? If you die in game, you don't die in real life. If you die in game, you just lose time. And so it lets you, it encourages, I think if you're smart about it, you can use gaming as a way to learn, to experiment, to learn to deal with losing, to deal with winning, to deal with, strategies that work or don't work. Because unlike real life, there's no real big consequence. You don't really lose anything when you lose in games, so it's kind of safe, right? So the quote by this lady, right? And she says this, this is my pet theory, but games are good for keeping your mind active. When thinking of playing a game, I learned how to play them, what they're about. I even kept memos. Ultimately, that was a good thing because you generally stop doing that sort of thing when you get older. Right? So that can be a benefit of gaming as well. So these are some other things that we should be more concerned about rather than just what's on the surface, right? The data is clear. Social media is way worse for mental health than almost anything that came out in the last 15, 20 years, right? Teen suicides are up, issues with self-image and teen depression is up, and the iPhone was released in 2007, and psychologists say you can see it is a very, very clear correlation with the spike in teen suicides, depression, and all that, right? And so we need to just, I think that's a bigger problem, and we need to talk about social media, right? Comparing others, right? Internet pornography, right? I mean, the research and the statistics are probably, I'll just say it, right? It's about 95% of guys aged 12 to 13 have watched internet porn, right? And right, so and for girls, the number and the percentage is going up really, really fast. And so these are issues that I think are more important for us to talk about. Hopelessness about the future. For us younger people, right? We are the first generation in 50 years that is less well off than our parents. And there's climate change, and there's all that kind of stuff. Now there's COVID, my goodness. And so the prospects of our future seem a bit bleak. The recent article in Straits Times came out, right? Young people my age don't want to have kids because the future seems bleak. Why bring a kid into this increasingly dystopian world? And I think that hopelessness is something that I'm more interested in. I think we need to really address for young people. And of course, the generational divide. Like I mentioned, because of the internet, you have an entire generation of people who grew up with the information of the world at their fingertips. And I think that changes the way we think. And I think that has fueled a little bit of a generational divide. So, moving on, how can we possibly then redeem gaming, right? And this is what I'm trying to do. So, as we know, gaming culture is really toxic, right? So I earned my stripes in Bugis Arcade back then in the basement, if some of you know. That was the place to go for competition. And every week, there was, the police would be there. It's true. You say, don't go to arcades because there's a lot of gangsters there. Kind of true, right? So every week, there was some guy who got beaten up bloody. Right? And then you have people who smash the arcade cabinets and all that. And when you win, right? Generally, even in online games, right? You guys know the meme, right? In a lobby of 10 people, the person at the bottom, he's the one who confirm will say GG easy, right? The lowest fragging guy, he's the guy who says GG easy all the time. Or when you win, right? GG noobs or whatever. And so I don't know why, we love to gloat, and it's just become this kind of toxic gaming culture. So what I did was, when I was in Korea, Street Fighter 4 just came out, I just decided to do one thing. I decided to, after I win, I play, win or lose, I would go up to the guy, and I would say, good game. Such a simple act, right? And then initially, the people would look at me. It's like, this guy's weird. But next thing you know, I started making friends. They started getting used to me doing that, and they started to do it with other people as well. And next thing you know, because I was doing my exchange in Busan, and I had some friends in Seoul as well, for some reason, I became the guy that united the Street Fighter community in Busan and Seoul. And when I came back to Singapore, that's what I did too. I went to the Bugis Arcade, and when I would win, I would go, good game. Because usually when you win, people will go like, Or when, right? When you win in arcade, then you give the look. But then instead, I would just go over, it's like, hey, good game, hey, really good combo that you did just now. I really like the way you played your character. And people looked at me weird, but this is just decent behavior, right? Because so what I'm trying to say is that gaming culture is so toxic, so you just need to be just a little bit normal, just a little bit nice. And there's just so much potential to redeeming this space because it doesn't take much to show people that there's a different way to game. This guy looks like Chris Evans. Okay, so, all right. So, and one of the things I want to talk about is I think that if we are a little bit more reflective when we play games, I think there's so much that we can learn. So, for example, this game is Resident Evil 8, if you guys are aware of it, right? It's a horror game. Is there anything that we can learn from a horror game? Well, the story of this game is about a father who will go through hell and back to rescue his daughter. And to me, that I really connected with this game. I can't play horror games. I get freaked out. But now that I'm a father, when I played this game from the start, I was like, okay, I gotta save my daughter. Because it was my daughter, I'll go through whatever it is, I'll go through, at least in game lah. And then to me, so that was really, it was very difficult. I've never finished, this is Resident Evil 8. I have never been able to finish a Resident Evil in my life. I play a little bit, I stop, I get freaked out. Silent Hill, if you guys remember that game, I got freaked out. I got so freaked out. But because of this game, I'm now a father, and I felt, okay, you know what? Yeah, I got into character, and I actually finished the game. Right? God of War. This was the latest installment in a very long franchise, and I believe this is the moment where video games grew up. Because the first 3 parts of this game was very violent and all that. It was basically Kratos, the guy on the right, just killing lots of people. But all of a sudden, in the latest installment, he has a son. And he's very worried about his own sins or his past catching up, or his past passing on to his son. Right? Kind of like this concept, for us as Christians, right? That the Bible talks about sins of the father, or maybe even generational curses. And we see that, Kratos is really, as I played the game, right? Yeah, he's really afraid that his son would become like him. And there was this struggle throughout the game. And to me, that hit me really deep because, again, right, I'm a father now. And I was also thinking, yeah, I do feel that. I really I hope that my daughter won't make the same mistakes that I made. I hope that my daughter will become a little bit better than I was. And this is the hope that Kratos has. And this is just, the game doesn't resolve that conflict. And the sequel's coming out next year, right? So we'll find out what happens to his son. And finally, another game that I played that was really good is Ghost of Tsushima, right? It's this, samurai game. And in this game, the island of Tsushima is invaded by the Mongolian army. And immediately, the samurai are all killed because the Mongolians fight with no honor, right? So they just, they don't duel you, they don't bow, they just come back and they whack. And the samurai get overrun, and this guy, Jin, he's like the survivor. And he needs to kind of navigate this tension, right? Is he going to, because he's outnumbered, right? Is he going to fight dirty, like backstabbing the Mongolians, invading their camp? Or is he going to continue to uphold the samurai code by marching up to the camp and then challenging all the Mongolians to fight? And so the game really gives you this kind of tension all the way through. Because he meets his uncle. His uncle says, if you backstab people, that's not the way of the samurai and all that. And as I played this game, I got the feels. I got the feels because this is where I believe the church is at as well. I see a lot of, when you play this game, there's so much beauty. I'm a sucker for samurai stuff, right? I watched, if some of you know, Akira Kurosawa stuff, all these, if there's an anime about samurai, I'll definitely watch it. And I think the culture is really beautiful, but at the same time, it may not be effective going forward. And I think that's something that in the church, we're kind of dealing with, right? There's so much beauty and tradition. I have grown up in a charismatic church, and I have served in a Bible Presbyterian church. And so I have seen like kind of like two sides of that coin. You know, how beautiful and how wonderful some of the hymns are, some of the old writing of the churches are. I love going into old Catholic churches to just sit down and pray. But at the same time, it's also a lot of the older church is losing connection with the younger people. And we're always having, a lot of people in the older church has a lot of problems with evangelism, right, these days. So I felt like this game really kind of identified that tension between tradition and pragmatism very, very well. And so this is something that I learned from this game, and I reflected on that in church as well. And I think the way forward, if the church manages to navigate and manages to hold its traditions while still becoming relevant to the youth and the next generation, I think that's going to be fantastic. And I think that's what this game kind of like helped me to think through, see? So if you just do a little bit more of reflection with the movies, the music, or the games that you play, I think that we can get a lot out of it as well. All right. All right, so let's just really quickly, right, the future of gaming. This is a scene from The Matrix. Matrix 4 is coming out end of the year. Yeah, all right, I'm a little bit old again. I was so hyped. I watched this movie 7 times in the cinema. I was a little bit crazy. So this is a scene in which Morpheus introduces Neo to the Matrix and says, like, actually, this is inside a computer simulation. And Neo is wearing nice clothes, right? If you kind of I realized this is not the correct movie to talk about for many people in your generation because this is a movie that a lot of people in my generation watch. So this is a computer simulation, and in real life they're all like wearing raggedy clothes. And so Morpheus tells Neo that, the clothes that you're wearing, the appearance that he has in the Matrix in this computer simulation is called residual self-image, Neo. What is residual self-image? It is the mental projection of yourself. And isn't that what video games kind of allow us to do? When you create a character, when you create an avatar, when you put on skins, we are able to customize the way we look in a way in which we couldn't do so before, right? For our parents' generation, maybe different clothes or whatever, but in game, you can really look like whoever you want to look. If you're a guy, you can look like a girl. If you're a girl, you can look like a guy. And I think that has implications into the way we think, and it's going to become more and more immersive. And I think for us, and I think for many of you, your online identities are almost as important as your real life identities, correct? Right? My alias is, once upon a time when I was playing Street Fighter, everyone knew me as Yagami, because I was like a bit of a King of Fighters fanboy back then. And so when I would go to different arcades in different parts of the world, and there were people who are familiar with me, I'll introduce myself, hi, I'm Yagami, I'm not Lang. And so for many of you, right, that's how a lot of your friends know you from your online nicks rather than your real name even. And it's just going to become more and more stark as the future rolls through. And I would like to show you this thing.
It's amazing, and it is always developing. We have always got our eyes out for amazing demos.
This is
that
Unreal
show us
Engine
where
5.
graphics are going in video games. Hi, folks, it's Falcon.
This is
and today
real-time
on Game Links, 20
rendering
Unreal
of video
Engine 5
games
demos
right
that
now.
will blow your mind.
And I just want to show
Starting
you
off at
how
number
realistic
20,
video games
a
are going to
demo from
become.
Ramon Monsanto called Raining in the Jungle Part 2. Now, this might as well be video footage of a jungle with rain in it. You could legit set a film here and people wouldn't think, oh, that's fake, except for the fact that the rain is a little heavy. The details in the grass, the way the soil has absorbed water, it's genuinely a work of art. At number 19 is demonstration of a feature called Nanite. If you're unaware, it's a means of replicating and implementing surfaces by programming rather than by modeling all of it, and it allows for you to have a lot more on screen at any given time. Someone by the name of Tabasco Dev used Nanite in Unreal Engine 5 to put 25 million hamburgers onto the screen on a low-end PC, just to demonstrate how incredible this type of thing is. Now, it's not as though it runs perfect or anything, but considering it's a low-end PC with a frankly stupid amount of hamburgers on screen, and that it's not chugging along as though it is the end times, is extremely impressive. At number 18 is this architecture channel that is just doing this amazing interior work. It's a channel that
That's not a
started
photo.
as
That's
Unreal
computer
Engine
generated.
4 architecture. Because if you remember, there were lots of demos that came out showing how good Unreal can handle interiors. Well, it can do it better now. This architecture channel made this demo called UE5 ArcViz Lighting Test, just showing various different types of lighting in a home setting, and frankly, it just looks like a bunch of photography. I mean, if you didn't see them playing around with the various aspects of it, I think that you would not be able to distinguish this from a photograph if you were not specifically someone extremely familiar with 3D modeling. Just all the various materials, the linoleum, the cloth, the plastic, how everything refracts and interacts with light. It's just shocking that this can be done in real time. This looks more real than any computer-generated film from the last several decades. At number 17 is a test from An Vu designed to test out two various features. First, Nanite, which we talked about a little already. Nanite being a feature that allows for a lot of different stuff to be on screen without taxing the system so much. An Vu talking about having a fairly mediocre graphics card and running this thing off of a hard drive, not a solid state, claiming that this thing should have at least a few billion polygons, and the ray tracing, lumens, just looks insane. At number 16 is a test from HAL 00117 showing us Skyrim in Unreal Engine 5, and just wow. It's the Western Watchtower just retextured with all of this nature around it, flowing cloth flags, beautiful lighting effects, weather. It makes you think, wow, if only they'd stop using that damn creation engine. Because it really is beautiful to see something so familiar, so iconic in the world of gaming as an area of Skyrim looking this good. I mean, seriously, just look at the lighting and the shadows. There's just nothing like that in Skyrim. Apparently, this one uses nanite and displacement maps. Everything is apparently a primitive object, which is kind of insane. At number 15 is this K70 Soviet Moto, motorcycle, old-timey one, on a desert background, sort of in a low light situation, where we see the light on, and we see the various rocks and sort of dry plants of a desert. Again, I think that to the untrained eye, this can be very indistinguishable from a photo, until you get a little bit close, where you can see, and I don't think this is a limitation of the engine at all, but that some of the objects on the bike are a little bit lower polygon than you might expect. But even going further back, you can't even tell. Just the way everything reacts so naturally is so impressive here. The artist is Ostap Gordon, and really it is a beautiful example of how incredible this thing can look. At number 14 is another one from Ostap Gordon. This is an ancient temple designed to test the limits of lumen and nanite, which gives us this truly amazing, natural-looking structure combined with what looks like very old stonework. And the way that light handles itself in this situation, thanks to lumen, just makes it feel like you're looking at video footage from somebody exploring some old place that they're just entering for the first time. You have overgrowth, you have this reflecting light that's just like overexposing itself on the camera. It really just looks like real.
All right. So I hope you guys see what's the amazing thing about that video is that everything that you saw is rendered in real time. You know what that means, right? Meaning, if you watch like a Pixar movie, you watch Avengers, if there's anything that's computer generated, it looks real because that takes hours and hours to render. They pre-render it, and then they put it in the movie, right? But now, everything, all of that is rendered real time. That means it can be in our homes, it can be in our games. And if you thought that was realistic, imagine putting that in a VR headset. And so we watched recently Ready Player One. And there's The Matrix. In 3 to 5 years, it's going to become reality. And that's the future. Right? A lot of people are talking about the metaverse now. And so we really, as Christians, I believe, it's so important for us to kind of engage with this because the world is becoming more and more virtual. I think COVID has shown us how, well, it's great to be in here in person, but for example, COVID has forced many of us also to kind of interact and do church online as well. So, who knows what the future may hold, but whatever it is, virtual reality is going to become more real. The metaverse is going to become a big thing. A lot of tech companies are pushing it. And I think as Christians, I hope that we can get into this space and kind of redeem it as well. So I hope you guys have seen today that video games are serious business. It's immersive and it's almost more authentic than real life, because I like to say when you're playing League of Legends 5-on-5, you get to see people's true character and true colors more so than in real life. And like I said, we can even customize the way we look online. It's great for learning. It's serious art, like I hopefully showed you guys with God of War, Ghost of Tsushima, Resident Evil 8. There's a message. There are messages that video games are trying to send. It's seen as an art form, not just as an entertainment form nowadays. And video games are discipling young people whether we like it or not. So it's important to understand the gaming landscape and to know the real dangers versus the decoys. So like, yeah, violence, that's not great, but there are bigger dangers as well. And virtual worlds are the future. And so what does it mean to be human? What does it mean to be Christian in a virtual world? I'm hoping that we can begin this conversation. All right, so just really quick, I just want to kind of run through this really quick, because I think this kind of addresses a lot of some of the questions that I've been getting. So I won't go in depth into it, but I'll just kind of give a little bit of overview so we can have more time for Q&A, right? So how do we, to the young people here, I say this, right? Don't let the games master you, master the game. Because, in the Bible it says that Jesus says we can't serve two masters. So I just want to encourage us, right, to always know that our number one identity is we're Christians. Even before we're sons, or even before we're students, and even before we're gamers. So always have that in the primary, area of your mind, right? And so I just want to say, yeah, one of the things that we can actually start to talk about, and I love to talk to you guys about, is how real life skills help with mastering games. So a lot of older people, right, think that, to get good at games, you just play. But I'm sure, right, for any of you who's played video games competitively or wanted to be good, it takes a lot of discipline, it takes a lot of research, it takes a lot of, right, to know what's the best build, right, or what's the best armor, what min-maxing your stats are. It takes a lot of discipline to get good in a video game. And I think these are things that can be applied back into real life as well. So to me, I like to always say that when I'm not in a good place mentally, I'm a poorer Street Fighter player. I'm a bit more impulsive. I'm a bit more, impatient. But when I'm a little bit more better, when I have a little bit of a better mental state, when I'm a little bit more disciplined, when I'm a little bit more calm, that actually improves my performance in game. And I think if you guys can see that link, that gaming is just not something that you keep in one compartment of your life, but there are skills that are transferable between gaming and real life, then you can use the skills that you learn in gaming to help with your real life, and you can use the skills that you learn in your real life in gaming as well, right? And like I mentioned earlier, games are trying to teach us something, good or bad, or neutral. And so I just want to encourage us as we play, as we engage in any form of entertainment, actually, music, movies, YouTube, games, to always reflect on what is it trying to tell us, and what does it mean to you as a Christian as well. And you are who you surround yourself with. And I want to encourage you, to kind of take some time, maybe examine your online communities, right? There's a saying, you are the sum total of the people that you surround yourself with. And you may or may not be in a good or a bad group of friends online. I just want you guys to kind of reflect on that as well. And so for the parents, I encourage you, understand the nature of the games that your child is playing. So one of the questions that I get that came through the Slido or whatever, and one of the questions that I get a lot is, how come I tell my son or my daughter to stop playing and they get very angry and they just don't want to stop? And I would like to say this. For example, you need to know how long a game takes. One League of Legends game takes 30 minutes. A Dota game can be an hour to 2 hours. A CS match or a CS round can be about 20 minutes to 40 minutes. So when a parent comes to tell the kid, right, hey, just stop playing. It's like, imagine your kids are playing soccer, and it's like the 70th minute, and you say, hey, come, it's time to go home, just leave all your friends, go, right? And of course, the kid will get agitated. So it's important, so I just want to encourage you, know what games your kids are playing, how long a match is. And so, and of course, try and work around something, and we can talk about this a little bit more later, so that there are clearer boundaries and your kid knows, okay, after this match, then I'm going to have to go and sleep. After this match, then I'm going to do my homework. But yeah, but interrupting someone, you get your adrenaline. Science. There's science, right? When we're playing a competitive game, for example, our heart rates are higher, adrenaline spikes, and all that kind of things. And can you imagine that all of a sudden you're just yanking someone away from that environment? Of course, that person might be a little bit aggressive. So let's figure out a way to better manage this. So get to know their online friends, right? So my generation, all my parents strove to kind of know the friends that I knew in real life. But do you know the friends that your kids keep online? Are you interested in who they hang out with? And they can be people from all around the world. And they can be and mostly, in my experience, most people are okay online. They're nice and they're friendly, but there can also be bad people, right? So just find out. Kind of get into that and get to know who your kids are hanging out with online. Game with them even, right? I think that's the best way. There's so many games that are very low barrier to entry. Minecraft, right? Just to name a few. And nowadays, mobile games, they're free. You can download it. Why not have a game with your kid? I think even if you're not very good at it, I think your kid will really, really appreciate you just getting to know the game a little bit better. And then come to mutual agreements about playing time beforehand. So like I mentioned, like always, a shared solution is always the best solution. So if you and your kid can come to an agreement beforehand. Okay, today, how long are you going to play? How many matches of Dota? How many matches of League of Legends, right? And League of Legends is like 30 minutes a game. Okay, I want to play 2 matches today. So then okay, after 2 matches, we've agreed that you need to sleep, or we agree that you need to take a break, do your homework, and then maybe you can play a little bit more later, and then you sleep. Something like that. And I think I think if you are, for the younger people here, right, I think you would really appreciate that if your parents actually kind of discuss this with you a little bit better, right? I wish my parents, but of course, yeah, I wish my parents would understand that when I was younger, when I was playing Warcraft 2. Wow. Okay, so just a little bit more about my ministry. This is something that you can get involved with. We have and we have a Discord community. So I just want to invite all of you. The website link will be up later. Please join my kind of like little growing Discord community. Once in a while we do hangouts. I actually give some Bible devotions once in a while. We have prayer sessions every 2 weeks. And yeah, just a bunch of people I think so far have been very positive, who've been who are Christians first and gamers second. So it's a safe space. I make sure it's a safe space. I moderate it. So invite you to come and join us. The website is, sorry, can skip this. godandgames.com, right? So yeah, just go to it. Once you get to godandgames.com, there's a link to the Discord. Join it. You just need to read the rules. You need to agree to the rules, and you're in. So say hi to me. Say, I was from Bartley, and I liked or didn't like your talk. And so yeah, so say hi. And so these are some other resources as well. Sorry, did I click? Okay, anyways, yeah. So these are some other resources. So Comeback World, Sus Oyo. I know the person who owns the website. I keep mispronouncing it. These websites give you some resources to help with for example, if you know someone who's like really, really addicted to video games, and that's ruining their lives, for example, that's really in the deep end. There are some resources and there's some programs in which they kind of help to coach young people through their gaming experience, or maybe even through deep addiction. And of course, there's Touch Cyber Wellness as well, which also is a good resource. So there are resources out there, and I think there's a lot of, their conversations about video games are very positive and also quite godly as well. So these are all Comeback World and Sus.io. May not be Christian on the surface, but it's run by Christians. All right, so I guess that's it. These are some of the discussion questions, but I'll flash them on later. And so, yeah, all right. So thank you so much for your for your time and attention. And so I guess it's Q&A.
Thank you, Lang. Can we put our hands again to thank him?
Thank you.
Okay, time is a bit short. For those of us who have questions, you can use the Slido. Can we have the QR code up there? Or the Slido code? Or, yeah, it's up here. So we'll ask a few questions and we'll see how it goes. So for those who don't know how Slido works, if you like the question, you can put the thumbs up there, okay? Then it will get pushed up. Then we will know that this is the question that most of you want to ask. So youth, this Slido is not just for parents, okay? I saw some youth putting some stuff there to chill people to play games already. Call of Duty? I don't know what game is that. Okay, so let's start with the first question. I think this is directed to you. What is the most powerful life lessons? Okay, let's just ignore that. This happens every time when there's youth. What's the most powerful life lessons you have taken away from your gaming in general?
Right. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Phoebe.
Can I sit down? Yeah. Sorry,
It's
John.
been standing for an hour.
Yeah.
For me, not so bad.
Yeah, so this is a little bit more intimate. It's a really good question. What's the most powerful life lesson? Like I mentioned earlier, when I'm in a bad mental state and when I'm kind of playing games from a bad place, I'm a worse gamer, really. I become really, I become easily triggered. I become John, who is Joe? Pastor Joe, right? You guys know Pastor Joe, right? Yeah. Anyways, okay, so like I said, when I'm actually in a better place, when I'm actually when I'm healthier physically, when I exercise, when I have good sleep, I actually really perform better in game, and so that's kind of a lesson that I'm constantly reminded of, and it's very, very clear to me, and I think that can apply to other areas in my life as well. All right, so that's a great question.
Thank you, Lang. Let's move on to the next question. I think this, even as a parent, I myself also am thinking about this. After agreeing on boundaries, if the child continues to break the boundary for games, how can we or how do you manage?
Right. So I guess it's a general parenting thing, right? It can replace gaming with anything else, and it's the same issue. And the issue here is, like I said, the best thing you can do is to set a agreed upon boundary. So that means it's not just you who agrees on it. It's two people. It's your kid, it's your child, and you who've come to the agreement together. And whenever your kid breaks it, you remind your kid not that, hey, why are you playing so much video games? But the more important issue is that we need to be people of our words. Bible says, let your yes be yes and let your no be no. And so I think that's the bigger lesson, and I think that's what's more important that we need to kind of arrange in my kid. My 3-year-old, right? I have a 2-year-old daughter, and that's the best way already. Even then, she can understand. I make deals with her. Okay, one more episode of Number Blocks, and then it's shower time. And she actually wants. Okay, so she knows after the episode is done, she knows. Okay, it's shower time. And when she doesn't want to shower, I tell her, hey, you told me that you would only watch. You agreed. We pinky promised. One more episode. And so I feel like, yeah, right? I think that's something that you want to cultivate with your child. The deeper issue is not that your kid is playing game. The deeper issue is that your kid is going back on his word. And I think as Christians, I think that we need to be people of our word. And I think that's more important. All right, good question. Thanks.
Thank you, Lang. I think that also works for me because I'm a very lenient parent. Okay, next question. Just going with the likes. What is deemed acceptable engagement or engagement with online games for our youth?
Right. So I think a lot of the questions from the older people. I'm hoping that you guys can. I mean, let's be in conversation. You can join the Discord. You can private message me. There are a lot of resources online out there that kind of give you an idea about which games are suitable for which age group. Right. So if some of you are familiar with this website called Common Sense Media. It's a great website, for example, or the ESRB website. And these are some websites that you can go, feel free to ping me online or whatever. But yeah, these are websites that you can go to kind of find out what the different games are and whether or not they have parental controls with regards to regards to private messaging. So I would like to say, generally, if your child is below, it's below 12 or below 13, that means 12 and below, personally, I would be very cautious about letting them play a game in which they can chat, and there's unfiltered chat between people. Because what's happening these days is there's a lot of sexual predators, for example, that go to these games and use these games to groom young people, right? And then, so I think it's generally also a more important thing with the internet. I think we need to be able to, I think it's important for us to educate our young people on how to use the internet. I think the conversation needs to, I think the conversation needs to come sooner, right? So really, like, when your kid is like 8 or 9, I think maybe soon enough, maybe even 7 or 6, to start talking to your child about the boundaries and about how to be a wise internet user. All right.
Thank you, Lang. Now I'm going to speak to all the youth who is putting interesting comments up there. Please restrain. Yes. So your youth director is scolding you now, in case you never realize. Okay. Impossible. What God put together, let no man separate. Amen? Oh, I see, not bad. I can be a good husband. I am a good husband, sorry. I think one question that I want to draw out is our game addiction. When the parents send in the questions, some of you ask, what defines game addiction? Like, is there like hours or what? And how? Then the question follows on is, what are some steps we can take with somebody with this gaming addiction? I think this is very real for the parents and even for us as young people.
All right, thanks. So there's two kinds of addictions. There's physiological addiction and behavioral addiction, right? So physiological addiction is like my addiction to coffee. If I don't drink coffee, because my brain is so used to living on caffeine, if I stop drinking coffee, I will get a headache, right? And same goes with alcohol, same goes with some forms of drugs. But then there's behavioral addiction, and behavioral addiction is a little bit more complex, and video games fall into the behavioral addiction area. And as with any addiction, it's a pretty complex issue, but what I would like to, okay, so let me just see if I can get a handle on it. Like I said, it's important, I would like to suggest that if your kid is addicted to gaming, that is actually more of the symptom rather than the cause. So, for example, like I said, right, games give us instant validation. Games help us to escape from what may be a boring or frustrating world. You know, things like that. And so I would encourage you to kind of ask deeper questions first and to kind of figure out what is it that your kid is kind of like unhappy with or escaping from, right? And then at the same time, of course, if it's really, really bad, I encourage you to be a little bit more familiar with how to kind of, for example, again, right, like I said, come up with mutual agreements as to what the game time can be and what you can actually do. There are lots of tools out there. It's probably a tool in your router. You can actually configure a router to cut off access to the internet or to do things like that, like after a certain time. So it's just automatic, right? And so when it just cuts off, it just cuts off lah. Sorry lah, we programmed the router to cut off at 11:30, you know? So, and that's what we agreed on, right? Too bad. So, like I said, try and find out the deeper reason behind why your kid may be addicted to gaming and what void or what are they using video games to kind of fill. Yeah.
Thank you, Lang. I think he answered the question in a deeper level. There's not just the manifestation of it. And a few years ago, for some of you who remembered, we actually had Touch, who came and did a session on addiction. So I think for that, we will keep in mind and we'll see when we need to, we'll get like Touch or one of those, or Chinese. Okay. I think asking from a question from the youth, right? This sounds more like a youth question. How do we reflect on the games we play like you do?
Okay, so I'd like to, yeah, this is a really good question. I like to say this, right? The analogy is, there's two things that I think we need to realize. All truth and all beauty is God's truth. All truth is God's truth. And the Bible, there's this concept called, have you heard of this concept called plundering the Egyptians? You know, when the Israelites were in the wilderness and God asked them to build the tabernacle, and they all donated their jewelry, their gold, their silver, or whatever for the building of God's temple, where did the jewelry come from? It came from Egypt. It says, right, the Bible says that as they left Egypt, all the Egyptians gave them the gold, right? So God can use the gold from, secular places or from non-Christian places, and he wants to turn it into something that glorifies him. So I think just want to encourage you to kind of go in with that mindset, number one. And number two is to understand then, to go deeper in what God's truth is. Another question I have for you. Do you know how in America, right, there's this branch of the government in which people, I'm sure in Singapore also got where they are supposed to learn they are the people who identify whether or not a bill is counterfeit or real, right? And you know how they train to spot counterfeit money? They don't train to spot counterfeit money by looking at counterfeit money. They become super duper duper familiar with real money. Every square millimeter of what real money looks like. And so when they see counterfeit money, they immediately know the difference. And so I just want to encourage you with this as well. There's no shortcut. It's to go deeper into God's truth, in God's word. And so when you know that, and when you see that the Bible God's word is so beautiful and true, then you get a real idea of what real truth and real beauty is like. And so then when you go back into whatever media that you consume, then, you have a reference point. And so, like I said, there's no shortcut. It's just, like I said, it's be so familiar with God's beauty and truth such that then when you go into watching anything, of course not anything, but, playing most games or watching most movies, you're able to see the truth in there and also what's not true in there as well. Yeah, great question.
Thank you, Lang. I think really spoken like a true Bible Presbyterian. I think we'll end off with one final question, and then we're done. About the parents, should parents allow their kids to spend money on games? This one, there's 9 likes.
Wow. Okay. It's actually very interesting. I recently, for some of you who don't know, I write part-time for Thirst. It's an online Christian magazine. And I recently did an interview with this Christian artist who started an NFT collection. Yeah, very interesting. And what's interesting was it can be some of you, okay, I'm not going to explain NFTs now, but, some people think it's a scam, some people think it's not. It's a bit of both. But what was interesting is he told me about a friend that he had in which the mom and the daughter, actually the mom and the daughter, they both invest together in either NFT or cryptocurrencies or things like that. And so the mother gives the kid a budget, and then, together the kid and the mom invest. And that's a way in which the mom uses, it's a way for mom to kind of disciple her kid in investing and being a good steward of their money. So it's the same principle. It's not whether, so my suggestion to you is maybe don't make it a yes or no, but make it more like, okay, let's budget. How much do you want to spend? Give your kid a budget and be a little bit reflective. I would say definitely if they're spending on loot boxes, I'd be a little bit more careful. I think it's important to have a good conversation with kids about loot boxes, because loot boxes basically learn from the slot machines in Las Vegas to kind of trigger errors in our brain, all these gacha mechanics and all that. So I would be a little bit more, I would have a conversation with a kid about loot boxing stuff. And at the same time, maybe ask, is it pay to win? I personally don't like pay to win games, meaning you pay and then, if it's just cosmetic, it's fine, honestly. But if it's a game in which the game encourages you to spend money so that you can get better in the game, that's a trap, right? And it's not a fair fight. It's who has the best credit card wins, and that's a bottomless pit. So again, like I said, be a little bit more familiar with the nuances of what your kid is spending money on. If it's like a skin, then give a budget once a month, buy a premium skin. I think it's fine. I think that helps your kid learn to budget as well. But again, if it's loot boxes or pay to win, then I'd be a little bit more careful. Yeah, great question. Yeah.
Thank you, Lang. I think what he brings out very strongly is about conversations. We need to have conversations both ways, both from the youth to the parents and from the parents to the youth, which I think we as parents are both learning a lot about also. So that concludes our Q&A. Let's put our hands again to thank Pastor Lang.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It was really great. All the best. See you guys online. See you guys on the Discord. Yeah, like I said, feel free to ping me. All right.
Yes, thank you, Lang. I believe he will stay around for a while. So if any one of you want to interact and converse with him a bit more, he's available. So what's going to happen now is after announcements, we're going to cell group time, and where the youths will go into their cell groups and the CGLs will take over from there. So for the P6, I'll introduce you to your leaders. And for the parents, we'll stay behind, and this is where I will speak to you all about next year's plan. We can have a conversation. We can interact from there. Okay, announcements. Actually, Lang Yu. Yes. For announcements, there's a few announcements that we need to make. First announcements, for cell group roomings, here are your roomings. So for the rest of you, you should be relatively familiar. But for the 2K9s, you are in 2.4. You don't know where 2.4 is? Can I have Ling Jin and Phoebe? Where are they? Okay, Phoebe is all the way to the end. Ling Jin is this young and handsome man. They are your CGL. So for the parents who want to know, this is Ling Jin, Li Ling Jin, and that's Phoebe. The one with the, wow, got clap one. They are your CGL. So later on, P6s, P6, 2K9s follow them. Okay? Next slide. I think next slide is for someone else. For me, next week, what's going to happen on the 11th of December, we're going to have youth service. And you're going to have a very famous, very handsome, very young, and good-looking pastor, not pastor yet, but a person to come and preach to you, and there's none other than Jonathan. Yes, that's the way I joke with them, and they know that I'm good-looking. Yeah, so next week, youth service, we'll meet at 3 o'clock to 6 o'clock still, and I'll be sharing some stuff with you. Next up, for the next slide, I don't know who am I looking at. Christmas or camp? Or there's a video, is it?
The year before had been unpleasant to say the least for everyone. On top of the lives that were lost, many struggled to stay afloat, leaving the nation at a standstill with no escape from the overwhelming effects of the pandemic. However, with the wise leadership and the combined efforts of the researchers and the populace, President Dre's contingency plan, codenamed the Convergence, paved the way for a new hope that brought the community out of its darker days. A vaccine was created, and the pandemic that once surged the nation came to a halt. So, why doesn't it feel like we've won? While there were significant improvements in the nation's redevelopment, the same could not be said for the people's well-being. New problems arose over what was resolved. Productivity is at an all-time low. The global happiness index has hit rock bottom in the past 6 months. Many continue living in the past, even when the road ahead is a safe one. It soon became clear to President Dre that what this nation needed was not just a new cure, but a change of heart as well. Introducing the Reformation, a state-of-the-art virtual simulation designed to evaluate the people's needs and behaviors to determine the best course of action for the nation's path forward. It is a place of freedom and control, where you decide what's best and you control what comes next. The world is in your hands, and so is its future. Your choice matters. You will be what changes the nation. You are the Reformation.
Hello, mic testing. Okay, so a warm welcome to parents. Okay, nice to see you here, and the P6ers, and to everyone else here. Wow, very full house. Yeah, I had a headache just now, but it's okay. This is a good headache, so okay. So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Isaac. And in Frontline, I am the ministry head for this ministry called Events Ministry, or you will know it better as the Best Ministry. Okay, anyways, so today I'm here to publicize this Christmas event that we're happening. So this Christmas event is a yearly thing that Frontline has for all the youth. And of course, we're opening it up to the P6ers and to, well, everyone else that has been coming for years. Okay? So from the video, yes, this year's event name is called The Reformation. You'll find out why it's called that soon in the coming weeks and even on event day itself. But basically, from the video, you could see that for those of you who were around for last year's Christmas event, you will see that some things look very familiar to you, right? Like, you know, our President Dre and some of the researchers and things like that. So yes, this event is a continuation of what happened last year. So for those of you that don't remember, well, it's your problem lah. But for those of you that do remember, yes, then I hope you are looking forward to this year's event, okay? So it's a new story, but you see people like me and the president and yeah, you know who else lah. All right, so we are having this event on 18 December, and it's from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m., okay? And it will be upstairs, level 3 in the main auditorium, okay? So that's the basic details. Next slide. Okay, so the attire, because for this event, we will not be having any games, okay? But we will still have a program for you, something a bit more better. But because of all the safety and all the restrictions, we are kind of limited lah in our movement and stuff like that. So we will still have something, but don't have to come in sports attire, just come in something comfortable because it's going to be cold. So just come in something comfortable, okay? Next slide. Okay, so registration has been going on for the past few weeks, right? So today at 10 p.m. is the last day of registration for all frontliners, meaning from all the Sec 1s to the 2K3s, okay? So P6ers, a bit funny, y'all come today, then I tell you closing, right? So, but don't worry, I'm opening, so parents also take note for your kids and also for those P6ers that y'all are here, right? I'm opening up the registration, or rather, I'm extending it just for you guys alone until 8 December. Okay, so Wednesday, 8 December, you have all the way from now till Wednesday to sign up for this event. But unfortunately, afterwards, I'll be closing the registration because of admin. It's a very headachy thing also. Okay, but to all the frontliners here, I'm sorry, but after tonight, you will not be able to sign up for this event. So you still have until 10 p.m., so please go ahead and sign up for this event if you have not. Okay, for those of you that already signed up for this event, please don't sign up again. I'm seeing too many names in one spreadsheet, so please don't have to remind me. Okay, so take note, registration ends tonight at 10 p.m. for all the frontliners, but for the P6ers, you may sign up from now until next Wednesday, 8 December. Okay, so this event is also only for fully vaccinated people only. Jala, rules are rules, gotta follow them lah. So if any of your kids are not fully vaccinated, I apologize, okay, but it is what it is lah. So can't really do anything about it, okay? But maybe next time, when things get better, okay? So yes, is there another slide? Okay, so at the end of the day, for this event, I want you to take away one thing before we hit the event day itself lah, is that your choice matters and you are what will change the nation, okay? So yes, thank you, and I will see you guys next week. Yes, okay.
Okay. Hello. Wow, there's a lot of you. It's been a while since I've seen all of your Frontline Youths. Welcome P6ers, 2K9s. I'm the camp commandant for this year's camp. My name is Benjamin. I'm really cold. If I stutter, I'm sorry, but I'm really, really cold. Okay, so I'm just here to brief you all on a few camp details leading up to camp. A few important things to note. So the first thing is that they all like 12/12 sales, Black Friday, Cyber Monday, 11/11. Yeah, okay. So this year, camp committee is generous enough to give you all a cut from 75 down to 45. Okay, just kidding. It's actually because we're having a half-day camp. So yeah, camp is priced at $45 this year. Due to COVID regulations, we're not able to provide meals for you because we can't eat on church premises. So to solve that, we have cut it down to a half-day camp. But yeah, don't worry, please be excited. I'm going to prepare a lot of fun things for you to do, I hope. if you missed it, the three important things are is that camp costs $45 this year. There will be no meals provided, so before and after camp, settle your own lunch and dinner. Yeah, and camp will start shortly after lunchtime, somewhere in the early afternoon and end in the evening. Yep, next slide. Okay, payment resumption, right? Payment resumption happens next week, 11 December. That's the day we'll make another announcement on, telling you how you all can pay and what's the procedure to go about. And for those who have already paid the 75, right, we will be giving you back your money, the $30, okay? Starting from 11 December onwards. So we'll be working on that. Yep, next slide. Oh wait, no. I scrapped my thank you slide because it had my number on it, and this is going onto YouTube, so I don't want people to contact me from Brazil. So yeah, that's all, okay? That's all. Thanks so much. I'll see you at camp.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Isaac. So now it's cell group time, but because of the different restrictions, again, I got to release you batch by batch. So this side of this zone will exit from this door. That side, on my left side and on your right side, please use the back door, okay? And once I release you, take your bag, follow your leaders, go to your room. For the parents, please feel free to take a short break, and then we'll meet back here if you need the break. If not, I'll just be here. Okay, are they ready? Are the doors? Okay, so take your bags for the 2K9s. Oh, okay, can. And also for those who wants to give your offerings, the usherers will be with there at the exit with the offering bags. So just now, there was some issue, so it couldn't be passed around fast enough. So 2K9s, follow Ling Jin.